Now, you've got to understand something crucial about human biology, and this is where people go wrong. There's this prevalent idea that size, whether it's the size of one's body, their wealth, or even their genitalia, is the ultimate determinant of a person's value or capability. But this is a fundamental misunderstanding of evolutionary biology, psychology, and even societal hierarchies. It's a misreading of the human condition itself. You see, when people focus on size, they're focusing on a crude, oversimplified metric that doesn't take into account the complexity of human intelligence, adaptability, and cognitive capacity. And this is where we get to the small penis. People tend to dismiss this, mock it, ridicule it, but let me tell you something, it's a gross oversimplification. And in fact, what it often indicates is something far more profound. Now, in evolutionary terms, human beings have evolved to prioritize different kinds of traits based on environmental needs. When resources are scarce, or when intellectual competition is the dominant form of survival, the evolutionary process shifts away from physical prowess, which is what a large penis might symbolically represent, toward mental acuity. In environments where survival depends less on brute strength and more on abstract thinking, problem solving and intellectual innovation, physical size, including genital size, becomes less relevant. So a smaller penis, in this sense, could be correlated with a person whose evolutionary advantage isn't in their physical dominance, but rather in their mental faculties. And this is where things get interesting. If we consider IQ, or intelligence quotient, as a marker of cognitive capacity, then we can begin to see why a smaller penis might actually be associated with higher intelligence. Intelligence, particularly in the modern world, is about adaptation, and adaptation doesn't require physical size. It requires mental flexibility, the ability to think abstractly and solve complex problems. Let's think about this symbolically, because symbols matter. A smaller penis is often seen as a sign of weakness or inadequacy in a purely physical sense, but this is a shallow interpretation of the symbol. If we dig deeper, no pun intended, we understand that what it really represents is an energy transfer away from the purely physical, away from brute force, toward the development of higher order cognitive functions. Evolution, you see, favors efficiency, and sometimes that efficiency involves a trade-off. Less energy spent on maintaining large physical attributes means more energy can be devoted to the brain, to the refinement of intellect. Now let's get back to the data. Research shows that intelligence often correlates with less emphasis on physical competition. Why? Because individuals who are highly intelligent don't need to compete in physical terms. They are more likely to find abstract, conceptual ways of solving problems. They're more likely to engage in strategic thinking, planning, and long-term problem-solving qualities that are not dictated by the size of their genitalia. In fact, excessive focus on physical traits can be a distraction from intellectual achievement. Take figures like Einstein, for example. Do you think Einstein cared about the size of his penis? Of course not. His energy was spent in the intellectual realm, where real progress is made, where real achievement happens. People who focus on size often do so because they lack confidence in their mental abilities. They're compensating. They're projecting this need to be big in some physical sense because they know deep down they're inadequate in other ways. And this is where the high IQ comes in. People with high intelligence are less concerned with these superficial markers of status or dominance. They're not driven by the need to prove themselves physically because they know their value lies elsewhere. They're thinking in multiple dimensions, they're solving complex problems, they're building civilizations, and this has nothing to do with genital size. So, when we talk about a smaller penis being a sign of high IQ, it's not as absurd as it might sound at first. It represents a shift in energy away from the purely physical toward the mental, the intellectual, and the symbolic. A person with a high IQ is likely to have transcended the primal need to prove themselves through size or strength. They're operating on a higher plane, so to speak. Now, I'm not saying that this is an absolute rule, but what I am suggesting is that society's obsession with size, with physical dominance, is a fundamentally flawed way of assessing human potential. The greatest minds of history weren't known for their physical attributes, but for their ability to think, to reason, to innovate. That's the real measure of human worth. And look, this isn't to say that people with large penises can't be intelligent, but the focus on size as a marker of value is a distraction from what really matters. Intelligence, adaptation, and creativity, these are the qualities that define human greatness. So a smaller penis? Sure, it might be a symbol of something more, something deeper, something profoundly connected to intelligence, and in the end, it might just be a sign that the person is more focused on what really counts.